Here we go, YouTube. Today we're going to be doing some recessed exterior columns out of PVC sheets, 4x8, 3/4 on top, cut out the interior rectangle, and 1/2 inch PVC on the backside to eliminate as many joints as possible. From there, we will build it in a U so that it can slide over a pre-existing column on the customer's porch. And then we will just attach the backside, probably with pin nails and PVC glue. We will hit it with some high build primer and some exterior paint. And that'll be that. So if anyone's interested, follow along. If not, move on to the next video. But here we go. Now, one of these days, we will have a shop-like cabinet saw. But until then, we do this with the 10-inch job site Bosch table saw. And the downfalls of being a small shop, you gotta have smaller, more mobile things just to make everything work properly. That's all. Is what it is. Make do with what you got. I will say this Booyah mic that we picked up, it's actually pretty good. You see that there? Booyah. I don't know, look it up, it's pretty cool. So I think it's worth it. Cheaper than the DJI, and I think a little bit better. We have already measured everything out, written everything down. So our finished width is gonna be 12 3/8. 12 3/8, 12 1/2. So typically what you do is, or what I like to do, have a full sheet, a little bit easier to work with things when they're broken down. So if I need 12 3/8 finished, I'll rip this down to 12 5/8, rip all the pieces, 12 5/8, 12 5/8. We're doing 2 columns, so I need 8 pieces, 12 5/8. And then we will pull the fence in a 1/16, give or take, miter it, all of them, all 8 of them, 12 5/8. Well, I guess at that point, it'll be 12 9/16. And then, so when all 8 have been ripped, then we will bring the fence in to our finished 12 5/8 and then rip the miter on the other side of the column all 8 times. So they're all the same, or as close as can be. And then that's how you start. So here we go. The other thing is I gotta get the vacuum set up. One day, I'm gonna have a shop and look back on all this and laugh. As it is what it is, there's nothing you can do about it. And this is our 3rd house flip, so we are looking for the next one. It's a little bit more property in this 2 acres, so that we can either build or major reno and build a shop. Because the lack of space gives me nightmares, but we make it work. To move sheet goods around, the Craig panel lifter, like, you just can't beat it. It's incredible. Just make sure you know what side you're ripping, because I can already see a dent and gouge on the top side. So that means we're going to use the bottom. Okay, here goes nothing. I say it like I haven't built it before. Built this plenty of times. These are the Jessem stock guides. They're not necessarily made for job site table saws, but if you are the MacGyvering type, you can make it work. It's not that bad. For anyone who hasn't seen these before, all that happens is you just want to try and make sure they're pushed all the way over a little bit, so they are sitting flush with this one. Not a typical problem because they're not really made for this. More of a cabinet shop tool. But we like to make things work to try and help us rip things down by ourselves. I'll show you what they do here in a second. Okay, stock guides are on. I don't have a scrap piece of PVC just yet, but I always got MDF kicking around. So it's the same thickness. And what we like to do is put it under the black portion here instead of the actual rollers. And that creates our thickness, right? So you can just drop it right on there. And what this does is it pulls the material into the fence, helping cut it straight and true to the blade. So we're using the MDF as a height adjustment. Once this is here, I've done the back one already. So once this is here, what I like to do is just stick my finger, or you can grab a shim, anything very, very thin, and just lift this portion, which is the whole assembly. Just lift it ever so slightly. So I just slide my fingernail under there, tighten this up, because if you don't, I find that it's really tight to the material and you end up fighting it more than it's helping you. So that's all. Now the stock guides are set. Now we rip. And just because we're building exterior columns here, it's not like this theory, philosophy, technique doesn't work for everything. This is exactly what you should be doing for just about anything. Any sort of columns, trim work, anything that's repetitive cuts, pre-assembly, everything that has to be true as best as possible to a job site saw until we get to the next one. Here we go. All we're going to do is we rest the sheet there so it doesn't slide away. And then we come on and grab the back half, lift her up, and away we go. I don't know if you can hear me, but the good thing about it is it'll hold it in place without any kickback. Forgot to turn the vacuum on. Happens all the time. This piece is really starting to bother me with this table. This is the problem with doing everything on a job site saw and on one of these mobility stands, whatever you want to call them, is as you're pushing the material and with the stock guides helping you guide everything back into the fence, the table moves ever so slightly. And as you're pushing, as you have the force against the saw, the front end of the saw kind of slides down and then your material doesn't meet the table. But I can't max this out anymore and I can't drop the table. So I'm just on that fine line of annoyance. And I'm about to fix that right now. That should be better. Rounding over that, my outfeed table, I've been meaning to do that for like a year. Now it's done. Okay, 12 5/8, remaining piece 9 5/8, which is perfect because the crown molding on the top is going to be 8. Nothing like good yield that way. Next sheet. So on a side note, I hate PVC. I love it for what it gives us in terms of durability and longevity, but working with it sucks. It's like styrofoam. It just clings to you. You can't do anything with it. You have to throw it out. You can't burn it like wood chips or shavings or sawdust or whatever. Use sawdust for oil spills, clean up, whatever. This stuff is useless. That's all. That's my rant. Third piece. Now that the ripping is done of the 12 5/8, that's the time to put your safety glasses on, because you've already gotten a bunch of stuff in your eye and you're just going to be smarter now. SMRT, right? Okay, so now with everything ripped down, all 8 pieces, all we're going to do is tilt the saw to 45. I have mine set up where it actually goes to about 45.2-ish, 45.3, give or take. You don't want to go too far or else there is no material for the glue up on the inside of the joint. Like if you did 2 47s on the actual miter, like the back portion of the miter, there'd be no material there and nowhere for the glue to adhere to. So it becomes redundant. You want to do like 45.2 or 45.3. So you get that nice sharp edge while still having material in there for the glue. And with that being said, we're just going to move this in slightly so that when we take a little bit of material off on the miter, we're only going to be taking off, say, a 1/16. So at that 12 5/8, we're still well within our overall width of 12 3/8 to 12 1/2. So that's it. Unlock, slide over. Mine's already preset, which means we bring the stocks over, our guide over about 3/4 of an inch. Sure, you can measure it, look and check. A little bit more. Okay, now one important piece to the puzzle when we are ripping these all down on miters is, the way I like to do it is you're gonna rip all of your miters first, and then you go back and you cut out the interior of the recessed panel. Because if you don't, if you cut out the middle first, your side pieces become very fragile, flimsy, and you can't really push them against the fence without some deflection in the piece. So that's why, while it's still a whole piece, you rip the edges off, those miters stay as true as possible, and after the miters are done, then you can go back, because as you push it against the fence, it's still strong because it's a full piece. Once you cut out pieces in the middle, it's no longer strong. That's usually the course of action. Always works that way for us. You do whatever you gotta do. There we go. Okay, on first pass, I realized that I didn't take quite enough. Like it's essentially a perfect 45, but you want to take a little bit more with a job site saw. There's a little deflection in the blade, and it might not always be 12 5/8 exactly for all 8 pieces. They might be a 30-second difference. Unfortunately, that's just how it is with a job site saw until we get the cabinet grade or shop grade or industrial grade. Probably won't go that heavy. Wow, that really flew. You can't get that kind of accuracy because you just don't have the horsepower in the machine. If you were to get to hardwoods, I know it's PVC, but the job site saw can only do so much. It's pretty good. Don't get me wrong, it's pretty good. You can be pretty accurate with it, but to be perfect, I don't think so. That's why cabinet shops have cabinet table saws. So this has been ripped. We'll just bring this in a little bit because you want to take a little bit off each one because not each one might be the same. It just helps you guarantee that each repetitive cut becomes or stays as accurate as possible. That's all. So we'll scoot this in now that we have our our point or our measurement. And hopefully they all do the exact same. Let's just say one is a little bit shorter than the other 7. If you get to that one, if it's the 8th piece and it ends up being too short and you're not cutting off that miter that you want, you'll just have to bring it in a little bit more on that 8th piece, but then you're gonna have to rip the other 7 down because you need to keep them all true. Kind of just is what it is. The reason we stopped is because it happened. That one did not make the exact miter that we wanted. Let's see if we can see this. You can see the miter here. It hasn't been cut 100%. Like there's still a 16th, maybe a 32nd worth of miter to be made. So that means that this is one of our small pieces. Sure, I could go through 8 pieces and try my luck, measure them all and find the smallest one. Sometimes I'm stubborn. One thing also to remember is when you make these miters, they are very sharp and can cut your skin. So you gotta be careful. Bring this in. We'll rip that again. We'll rip the first 2 again and keep going. The one thing you should do is now that they're ripped, you've established your size. Give it a quick peek and see which side is good and which side is bad. Because now that you're gonna start ripping your miter, you're essentially establishing which side is the finished side and which side is the back side. So right now, doing a quick look, I can see this right here, but our edges, we're gonna have 3 inches of the style on the side visible. So that is not ideal. So we'll flip it around and see what's going on this side. And this side looks much better. So what we can do is put a check mark in the middle because that's gonna get cut out. So it won't bother us there in terms of when it comes to finishing and painting and whatnot. Essentially, you should do this when it's been cut on the table saw so you don't have to keep moving the pieces around. See right here, we have a indentation right on the edge. We don't want to see that. Like these ones in the middle, we would have never cared because the middle gets cut out. So we'll see what the other side looks like. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect because it comes from the manufacturer and how many people handle it, from the place who makes it to the delivery guys to the wholesaler to all the workers inside to getting it into the van to getting it into the shop and getting it ripped. There's a lot of hands on it and that goes for everything. So you kind of just have to roll with it and be under the assumption that you're going to end up patching something somewhere along the way. That's why not a lot of people like to do the work. They just like to sell the product. Sell the product easy. Sell the product and here you go. Go away, give me my money. Leave it up to the installer to deal with deficiencies or customer complaining about something. No, I'm sure you know how it is. Just another rant from a small business owner. So a huge gouge down here, just for example, right here. You can see that. But since it encroaches into our 3-inch, which is going to be our style, 3-inch style, or at least try and find a better side. See, dents here, dents there. It's like these wholesalers and manufacturers, they can only care so much, right? Until their business has to be profitable, so they're just gonna make it and they're gonna ship it. They don't care. I see a dent over there we're gonna have to deal with. Oh, this one's got a nice scrape on it. Well, maybe back to the other side. I might be able to cut that off, so I might have to just deal with, oh, there's a dent there and there's a dent there. I'd rather deal with those dents than that big scrape. So this is gonna be our good side. $250 Canadian, $300. No, yeah, this is the 3/4 inch sheet. This is like $300 a sheet, but it's got all these dents in it that I have to worry about. I have to fill so that the customer's happy, so that we can get paid, so that we can receive the money, and pay attention to receipts and to our taxes and invoicing and go and look at jobs and have families and still work on all these tools and all tool maintenance and still gotta build it and still gotta go buy materials and still gotta deliver this, still gotta paint it. You gotta do all that. And they can't do one thing. They can't just sell a nice product. You wonder why less and less people wanna work. Another rant. I wonder how many rants I'm gonna do in my lifetime on this YouTube channel. Okay, those are already established because we ripped the miters, so it is what it is. And we are back to square one on routering. Mitering. Okay, now that the first miter has been made on all 8 pieces, we bring the fence in to our finished size, which is either 12.5, 12 3/8. It's probably gonna be 12 3/8 with the amount of material we've ended up ripping off on our first cut. So scoot this in, rip off the other side on the miters, and then we can start figuring out the interior cutout, so the long rectangle for the recessed part, if you will. So let's go. Yeah, so all of these pieces are at 12.5 right now. So we'll just bring this in. What I'll do is sometimes we'll just scoot it in a little bit and I'll rip the other side because I know we're already pretty close. There's no exact measurement we need here other than being able to fit around the column that's there. So if it was 12 3/8, 12 3/8 plus, or 12 7/16, it doesn't matter. So we're at 12.5 now. The bigger this is, the more space we have to fix the previous column being out of level. So what we'll do is I'll bring 12 3/8 here, knowing that I can't go past that or else it gets very dicey. So that should be sufficient for the amount that I just brought it in. So I'll run that through, see what it looks like. And if I need to bring in a little bit more to get to the line, so be it. One extra cut, it's not the end of the world, just more dust, that's all. More PVC dust. So what I've been saying all along is you want to rip all 8 at the same time. We try and keep the consistencies there. As we came across, I think it was somewhere in the middle. I didn't take more than the miter. I only took like just to make the miter. Can't really trust to do that 8 more times, as it might get a little bit smaller only because of the deflection in the blade. And I guess it could be human error as well, right? I'm passing this through. I don't have an in-feed table over here. It is what it is, tight on space. So as I bring the piece across the table, I could potentially be lifting it unintentionally or twisting it unintentionally. That's why I'm trying to at least keep my hand down on this side as well. Yes, the stock guides bring it into the fence, but because the fence is all the way over here, stock guides are all the way over here, there's still deflection and human error on this side. So you just try and keep it all to a minimum when you don't have a shop. Believe me, they look fantastic when they're done. So we'll bring this back, take a quick peek at our line. If you can see it, we still have an 1/8 at least to get to the line. So we will just bring this in a little bit. Right about there, it's another 1/16, and we'll do it again. Now, bring this back. I see that my line is still there, so I know I am well within the width that we need. I don't know if you noticed, but as I went across the table saw there, it was just barely ripping off that miter, which is fine because we've adjusted it twice, the fence. So we know that on the next 7 pieces, we'll be taking off quite a bit and we'll be within that tolerance of taking a little bit of the miter and a little bit extra so that all 8 pieces will all be the same. Here we go. Okay, that's it. We have finished sides, both sides. We have finished widths for our exterior portion. Everything ripped down, miter both sides. Well, now what we'll do is we'll figure out what our stiles are gonna be. I think they're gonna be around 3 inches wide, both sides. So we'll have to remove the stock guides so that we can do our plunge cuts. We'll be moving the saw back to its 90 degree. The hose is just in the way at the moment, unless something else is stuck in there. So we'll set up our stile width, take the stock guides off so that we can do our plunge cuts to remove the interior rectangle to give us our exterior columns. Let's go. Now that we have both miters made, we will get ourselves set up for our plunge cut. All we got to find out is our total distance, so 12 3/8. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 3 1/8, 3 1/8, which makes our middle 6 1/8. The portions of 3 makes sense to us. So that's what we're gonna do. So the 3 inches will be our stiles, and the baseboard that will be on here will be about 10 inches, which will mean our rail on the bottom will be the 3 1/8 to match all the way around. And then on the top, our crown molding will be 8 inches. So 8, 10, 3 1/8, 3 1/8, 6. We thought maybe increments of 3. We thought maybe that would look right. I don't know, we'll see. Probably won't do it, but we thought maybe 12 inches for the baseboard, 9 inches for the crown, 6 inches for the interior, and 3 inches for the outside. We thought maybe that'd be visually appealing. We also think that we overthought that, which we do a lot. So the 3 inches won't change. We'll mark this out. What we do now is we figure out our total distance, which is 102 3/4, according to the customer's porch. And then we will mark out where 102 3/4 goes, and we'll put the baseboard down here where we'll get 3 1/8. So what we'll do is math. So we have 102. We're gonna use 10 and 8. So 10 and 8 is 18, and 102 minus 18 is 84. So that's what our total distance is, and we need 3-inch rails each side. So what we'll do now is we have our total distance at the customer's, their veranda, their porch is 102. So what we'll do is, because these are 8-foot lengths, we couldn't get them in 9, 10s, or 12s. I don't think they're in stock, whatever the case may be. These are 96 to 97. They're 96. So what we'll do is we have total distance 102, subtract 96, which is 6. So we know that we're gonna have a 3-inch gap on the bottom and a 3-inch gap on the top to either fill or to work with, or whatever the case may be. So we'll probably end up cutting 3-inch spacers on the bottom, and the column will rest on that. So 3 inches on the bottom, 3 inches on the top, no problem. Why that's relevant is because if this starts at 3 inches off the ground and our baseboard is 10 inches, we'll measure down the 3 inches that this is essentially hovering, and we'll come up and we'll mark 10 inches because that's where our baseboard is going to be. We're essentially marking out a fake ground right now, right? 3 inches to hover, but the baseboard is 10 inches. So if this was the concrete, baseboard is going to land right there. And why this is all relevant is because we'll measure up our original 3 1/8, come across. Now you can mark it all the way across, knowing that you're gonna have to either eraser it or clean it off with acetone or whatever. You're gonna have to get the pencil mark off. I guess you could prime over top of it, doesn't matter. We'll just do it anyways, all the way across. So why that's relevant is because when you're doing your plunge cuts, when you're running your table saw, when you're running your cut, and it come all down, and you gotta stop right here on this line, so that when the baseboard goes on, it's gonna be down here. That's our baseboard down. Here's our 3 1/8, which is right here, 3 1/8, 3 1/8, 3 1/8. So it's all continuous. And then we'll cut the base at like 10 1/2 or 10 3/4 to scribe to the porch, because the porch is sloped for water. So then we can just make sure that the top is level and the bottom is scribed to the ground. It's just like doing trim. That's pretty much it. All we're gonna do is gonna go up there and double check that that 3-inch gap plus an 8-inch base makes sense. So 96. So this is gonna be 3 inches up, right? It's essentially like touching the ceiling now, or whatever's there. I guess it would be fascia, or it doesn't matter. Call it the roof, ceiling, whatever you want. There's our 3-inch gap because it's essentially hovering, but our crown is 8 inches, which it would be touching the ceiling. 8 inches, and then you mark your 3 1/8 reference cut, and you grab square. So that's where you're gonna stop, and that's the crown. Crown, 3-inch gap. So probably can't see it on the camera from there. So when you run your table saw, as you did your plunge cut, wherever you choose to do it, chances are you're gonna do it up here so that you can do your plunge cut here and push across the table saw like a normal cut, rather than plunge down there. Then you have to pull it across the blade, which is not how you use table saw. So you'll be starting up here, and the table saw will come to here and stop right there. And then you'll just cut this out with a chop saw. And then you'll finish that little corner with usually jigsaw, sand it up nice, and that's it. That's how you do recessed columns. Call it the easy way, the idiot-proof way, rather than doing ply molding. So you're applying pieces everywhere, creating joints everywhere, which is gonna crack eventually, and that's what the cheap guy does. So here we are. We have our reference points. We can set the saw up now and plunge cut everything. That's it.